We should have listened, Dorn muttered, his 4 eyes fixed on the view screen. We really should have listened. The Grand Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Gone were the usual arguments, the posturing, the endless debates about trade routes and boundary disputes. Now, all 23 representatives of the most powerful species in the known universe sat in stunned silence as they watched another moon, this one orbiting Pelox Prime, crumble into fine particles. Vex, the Tellurian ambassador, cleared her throat. That's the 7th moon this cycle. I believe that makes the humans' prediction exactly correct, down to the very day. Oh, thank you for keeping score, Vex, snapped Krell, his reptilian scales flushing purple with anger. That's tremendously helpful right now. Sarcasm won't save your moons, Krell, Vex replied, her tentacles rippling with what passed for amusement among her kind. My counselor Jax rose from his seat, his ancient body trembling slightly under the ceremonial robes. Let us not bicker. The humans warned us 3 cycles ago. We dismissed their concerns as, what was our official statement again? Admiral Plex, a stocky blue-skinned military leader, recited from memory the claims of a primitive species seeking attention through fabricated doomsday scenarios. I believe I added the word pathetic to the draft, but it was removed before publication. Yes, well, Jack sighed. The pathetic primitives appear to have been correct. Their science was sound. Their predictions were accurate. And now our moons are turning to dust, finished Tora, the youngest council member. Her holographic form flickered slightly as she leaned forward. The question is, what do we do about it? Do? Barked Krell. What can we do? The particle cascade has begun. It's unstoppable. That's what the humans told us, and that's the one thing they were actually right about. They weren't just right about that, corrected Vex. They were right about everything. The subspace fractures, the quantum resonance, the timeline, every single detail. And they also said they had a solution, Tora pointed out quietly. The chamber erupted into noise, a solution they would only share if we gave them a seat on this council, shouted Krell. A reasonable request, considering the circumstances, Vex countered. Reasonable? They are barely space-capable. Their technology is crude, their civilization unstable, their planet, well, actually quite beautiful, but that's beside the point. Jack slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. Enough. What's done is done. We refused their request. We denied them representation. We mocked their science. And now we face the consequences. A new voice spoke from the doorway. Actually, you might get a second chance. Every head in the chamber turned. Standing there, much shorter than most of the council members, but somehow filling the space with his presence, was a human. He wore the blue and white uniform of the Earth Defense Force, with commander insignia on his shoulders. This chamber is closed to non-members, Krell hissed. Yes, I read the sign outside, the human replied with a small smile. But considering your moons are dissolving and we are the only ones who know how to stop it, I thought you might make an exception. Counselor Jack stepped forward. Commander? Park. Commander Ben Park of Earth. Commander Park, your presence here violates at least 7 protocols. And your dismissal of our warnings violated basic common sense. But here we are, Park replied smoothly. Look, I'm not here to say I told you so. You literally just did, muttered Krell. But rather to offer assistance, Park continued, ignoring the interruption. Against the recommendations of many on Earth, I might add. Tora's hologram moved closer to the human. You said we might get a second chance. What did you mean? Park pulled a small device from his pocket. When activated, it projected a holographic display of the galaxy, with several points marked in red. These are the affected systems so far. The particle cascade is spreading exactly as we predicted. We are aware, said Jax dryly. But what you might not know is that we have successfully shielded our moon. The silence that followed was profound. That's impossible, whispered Vex finally. The cascade affects all natural satellites within the resonance field. Nothing can stop it once it begins. Nothing conventional, Park agreed, but we developed an unconventional solution. A quantum resonance barrier that isolates the moon from the cascade effect. Krell snorted. Quantum resonance barrier? That's theoretical at best. No species has successfully created stable quantum fields at that scale. No species on your council, Park corrected. We did it 3 months ago. Prove it, challenged Admiral Plex. Park tapped his device again, and the hologram shifted to show Earth's moon, surrounded by a barely visible shimmer. Live feed from our lunar observatory. Notice the integrity of the surface. No dust, no particle separation. The council members exchanged glances. If what you are saying is true, Jax began cautiously, then why come here? Why offer help to those who dismissed you? Park's expression hardened slightly. Because despite what some of you think, humans don't want to watch worlds suffer, even worlds that mocked us. The cascade will eventually destabilize inhabited moons, and after that, it could affect smaller planets. Billions of lives are at stake. How magnanimous, Krell said sarcastically. And what do you want in return? The council seat you demanded before. Not demanded. Requested, Park corrected. And no, that opportunity has passed. Then what? Asked Tora. We want the Keldor system. The chamber erupted again. Outrageous. The Keldor system is uninhabited but resource-rich, Park continued over the protests. But we need those resources to build enough quantum barriers to protect the affected moons. You are exploiting a crisis. Krell accused. We are stating our terms, Park replied calmly. You need our help. We need resources. It's a simple transaction. Jax raised his hand for silence. Commander, the Keldor system is valued at approximately 7 trillion galactic credits. Yes, we know. Considerably less than the combined value of the 23 moons that will be destroyed in the next cycle if you refuse our offer. Jax's tentacles twisted in what might have been appreciation. The humans have done their homework. We always do, Park said. That's how we predicted this catastrophe in the first place. That's how we developed the solution while your scientists were still arguing about whether the problem was real. And if we refuse? Asked Admiral Plex. Park shrugged. Then we save our allies and let the cascade run its course elsewhere. We can't force you to accept our help. This is extortion, Krell hissed. And this is consequences, Park corrected. Actions have them. Inaction too. Jax looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. Some seemed outraged, others calculating, a few appeared resigned. We will need to discuss this privately, Commander. Of course, Park nodded. You have 6 hours before the cascade reaches the Merat system. Their moon is inhabited by over 4 million of Admiral Plex's people. He glanced at the blue-skinned military leader. Just something to consider during your deliberations. With that, he turned and walked out, leaving the council in uproar. Outside in the corridor, Lieutenant Ada Wong waited for her commander. How did they take it? About as well as expected, Park replied with a slight smile. Outrage, denial, bargaining, they will get to acceptance eventually. Will 6 hours be enough? These council types love to debate. 4 million lives in the balance tends to focus the mind, Park said. Besides, we have arranged a little demonstration. Wong raised an eyebrow. Sir, in about 30 minutes, a small moon in an uninhabited system will begin to disintegrate. After that, the cascade will accelerate, exactly as our models predict. But you told them we could stop it. We can, but only the parts we choose to stop. Park's expression was grim. They need to understand what's at stake. What ignoring Earth has cost them. Wong nodded slowly. The brass back home won't like this game of chicken. It's not a game, Lieutenant, and we are not bluffing. Park looked out the viewport at the glittering expanse of stars. 3 years we tried to warn them. 3 years of data and projections, and please. They called us primitives, said our science was flawed, our methods crude. And now they learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. Back in the council chamber, the debate raged. We cannot give humans the Keldor system, Krell insisted. It would set a dangerous precedent. More dangerous than watching our moons disintegrate? Asked Torah. More dangerous than losing 4 million citizens on Merat's moon? Admiral Plex paced the chamber floor. What guarantee do we have that their technology even works? This could be an elaborate bluff. To what end? Countered Vex. They gain nothing if they can't deliver. And everything they have predicted so far has happened exactly as they said it would. Which raises another question, Jax said quietly, bringing the room to silence. If they could predict this cascade with such accuracy, could they have caused it? The implication hung in the air like a toxic cloud. That would be. Torah struggled to find words. Monstrous finished Krell, but not impossible. X's tentacles coiled tightly. You are suggesting that humans deliberately triggered a galactic catastrophe just to extort resources from us? I'm suggesting we consider all possibilities, Jax replied. Their technology is supposedly primitive, yet they alone predicted this event. They alone have a solution, and now they alone stand to benefit. Benefit? Torah's hologram flickered with agitation. They offered help. If they wanted to destroy us, they could simply do nothing. Unless this is about more than destruction, Admiral Plex mused. Perhaps it's about forcing us to acknowledge them, to respect them, or fear them, added Krell. A soft chime interrupted their speculation. The main view screen activated automatically, showing a small, rocky moon orbiting a gas giant in an uninhabited system. What is this? Demanded Jax. I didn't authorize this transmission. It's coming through on all channels, replied the chamber's AI. The source is Earth. As they watched, the surface of the moon began to shimmer. Tiny particles lifted off, catching the light of the system's distant sun like glitter. Within minutes, the process accelerated, the moon's outline becoming fuzzy, indistinct. This is happening right now, Vex whispered. But there was no moon on the cascade schedule for this moment. Another chime, and Commander Park's voice filled the chamber. The Neuron system, uninhabited, previously unaffected by the cascade. As you can see, the particle separation has begun. It will complete in approximately 20 minutes, at which point the cascade will jump to the Keldor system, then Arbol, then Merat. You said we had 6 hours, shouted Plex. The cascade is accelerating, Park replied calmly. An unfortunate development. Or a convenient one for your negotiating position, Krell hissed. Think what you want, Counselor, Park said. But ask yourself this, if we could control the cascade this precisely, what does that tell you about our capabilities? About whether you should continue underestimating us? The transmission ended. The council members looked at each other in shock. They are bluffing, Krell insisted, but his scales had paled to a sickly lavender. Are you willing to bet 4 million lives on that? Asked Torah quietly. Jax sank into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 300 years. We need to vote. Now, in the Earth vessel orbiting the council station, Park watched the Neuron moon dissolve with a grim expression. Right on schedule, noted Wong, checking her data pad. The council must be loving this. They think we are causing it, Park said. Or at least, some of them do. Aren't we? Park gave her a sharp look. No, Lieutenant. The cascade is exactly what we said it was, a natural phenomenon that our scientists predicted and developed countermeasures for. We are just being strategic about how we deploy those countermeasures by letting some moons die to save others. By ensuring that the Council understands the gravity of the situation, Park corrected, and the value of Earth's cooperation. Wong nodded slowly. Do you think they will agree to our terms? They don't have a choice. Even if they think we are behind this somehow, they need our technology. Park turned from the viewport. Prepare the quantum barrier generators. We will need to move quickly once we get approval. And if we don't get approval? Park's expression hardened. Then we save who we can and let the council explain to their people why they chose pride over survival. The communicator chimed. It was Jax. Commander Park, the council has reached a decision. I'm listening, High Counselor. We will grant Earth provisional rights to the Keldor system, contingent upon successful deployment of your quantum barrier technology to protect the affected moons. Park allowed himself a small smile. A wise decision. We will begin with the Merat moon immediately. There's one more condition, Jax continued. Earth will explain exactly how this cascade began and how you were able to predict it when none of our scientists could. That's easy, Counselor, Park replied. We paid attention. 3 years ago, our astronomers noticed quantum fluctuations in the barycenter of multiple star systems. We analyzed the pattern, ran the simulations, and saw what was coming. We shared our findings with your council. You dismissed them. And yet you alone developed a countermeasure. Because we alone took the threat seriously. Park's voice hardened. This isn't some elaborate human plot, Counselor. This is what happens when you ignore science because you don't respect the source. Silence stretched between them. Very well, Jax said finally. Deploy your technology. Save the Merat moon. We will honor our agreement. Transmitting coordinates now, Park replied. Our ships will arrive within the hour. As the communication ended, Wong looked at her commander. So that's it? We won? Park's expression remained serious. This isn't about winning, Lieutenant. It's about survival and recognition. For Earth or for humanity? Park turned back to the viewport, watching as the last particles of the Neron moon drifted apart. The galaxy needs to understand that we are not just some backwater species to be patronized and ignored. We have something to contribute, something important. And if they had refused our help? Park was quiet for a long moment. Then they would have learned an even harder lesson about the cost of underestimating us. As their ship prepared to jump to the Merat system, neither of them spoke the uncomfortable truth that hung in the air, that in either outcome, Earth had emerged from obscurity onto the galactic stage in spectacular fashion, and that the Council would never look at humans the same way again. Whether that was with respect or fear remained to be seen. The quantum barrier deployment ship, Defiance, dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of blue light. Before them hung Merat's moon, Luno, its surface already showing the first signs of the particle cascade. A faint shimmer played across the gray landscape, like heat waves rising from desert sand. Cutting it close, Commander, said Captain Felicity Zhao, the barrier specialist. Her fingers danced across the control panel, bringing the ship's main systems online. Cascade progression at 7%. We have maybe 20 minutes before it hits the critical threshold. Park nodded grimly. Status of the barrier generators? Primed and ready. But what, Captain? Zhao hesitated. The scale is larger than we anticipated. Luno's mass is 12% greater than Earth's moon. We will need to redistribute power from the ship's main systems to compensate. Life support? Asked Wang. We will maintain minimal levels, Zhao replied. But it will be cold and dark in here for a while. Park's expression didn't change. Do it. 4 million lives are worth a few hours of discomfort. As the ship's lights dimmed and the temperature began to drop, a communication request chimed through. Admiral Plex's blue face appeared on the view screen. Commander Park, your arrival is timely. We aim to please, Admiral, Park replied, his breath now visible in the chilled air of the bridge. Barrier deployment will commence in approximately 3 minutes. My people on Luno are reporting increased particle separation. Buildings are beginning to lose structural integrity. The situation is dire. The situation is manageable, Park corrected. We have dealt with worse progression on our test sites. Plex's eyes narrowed. Test sites? You have done this before? Park smiled thinly. Earth likes to be thorough, Admiral. We don't make promises we can't keep. Unlike certain council members, muttered Wong, just loud enough to be heard. Plex bristled visibly. I hope your confidence is justified, Commander. I have family on Luno. For the first time, Park's professional demeanor cracked slightly. You never mentioned that during the council debates. It wasn't relevant to policy discussions, Plex replied stiffly. 4 million lives weren't relevant, Park asked incredulously. 30 trillion lives across the galaxy are my concern, Plex countered. Personal connections cannot influence strategic decisions. Park exchanged a glance with Wong. A perspective worth considering. Barrier deployment commencing now, Admiral. I suggest you watch closely. You might learn something. The communication ended. Wong turned to her commander. Family on Luno? That explains a lot about his vote. Politics is always personal in the end, Park replied. No matter how much they pretend otherwise. He turned to Zhao. Captain, you have a go. Zhao nodded and activated the barrier sequence. 8 satellites ejected from the ship, positioning themselves in a precise configuration around the moon. Energy began to pulse between them, threads of blue-white light forming a lattice. Phase 1 complete, Zhao reported. Quantum resonance established. Beginning Phase 2, barrier generation. The lattice of energy began to expand, spreading across the moon's surface like a spiderweb catching dewdrops. Where it touched, the shimmering particle effect stopped, frozen in place. It's working, whispered Wong. Of course it's working, Park replied. But we are not done yet. On the view screen, they could see the barrier spreading, racing against the cascade effect. It was a visible battle between destruction and protection, played out across the lunar landscape. Barrier at 60% coverage, Zhao reported. Cascade progression now at 12%. We are ahead of the curve. Park allowed himself a small smile. Excellent. Maintain deployment pattern. Another communication request chimed. This time it was Jax, with several other council members visible behind him. Commander, we are monitoring your progress. The results are impressive. Thank you, Counselor. We aim to exceed expectations. Krell pushed forward. This still doesn't explain how you developed this technology when our scientists claimed it was impossible. Perhaps your scientists need to expand their definition of impossible, Park suggested. Humanity has a particular talent for achieving the supposedly unachievable. Or perhaps, Krell hissed, you know more about this cascade than you have admitted. Park's expression hardened. Careful, Counselor. That sounds dangerously close to an accusation. Commander, interrupted Tora, her holographic form stepping forward. The barrier appears to be changing the cascade particles. Not just stopping them, but reversing the process. Correct, Park nodded. The quantum barrier doesn't just halt the cascade, it reverses it. The moon's structure will be completely restored within 24 hours. The council members exchanged shocked glances. That wasn't part of our understanding, Jax said slowly. It wasn't relevant to our agreement, Park replied, deliberately echoing Plex's earlier words. You asked us to save the moon. We are saving it. The method is our business. Restoration was thought to be impossible, Vex interjected, her tentacles writhing with excitement. This technology, it has implications far beyond the current crisis. Yes, Park agreed. It does. You are telling me, Krell said slowly, that humans not only predicted this catastrophe, not only developed a way to stop it, but also created technology that can reverse quantum decay, a process our physicists consider irreversible. That's exactly what I'm telling you, Counselor. And you expect us to believe that a species barely a century into space travel achieved all this independently. Park's smile was cold. I don't particularly care what you believe, Counselor. The results speak for themselves. Commander, Zhao called from her station. Barrier deployment complete. Cascade halted at 15% progression. Reversal process initiated and stable. On the view screen, the moon had stopped shimmering. Instead, a faint blue glow surrounded it, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "Luno is saved," Park announced. As promised. The council chamber erupted into a mixture of relief, excitement, and suspicious murmuring. "We will honor our agreement," Jax declared over the noise. "The Keldor system will be transferred to Earth's authority, effective immediately." "Thank you, Counselor," Park nodded. "We will begin deploying barrier technology to the other affected moons within the hour." "And after that?" asked Tora. "What happens when all moons are protected?" "After that," Park replied, "Earth would like to discuss a more permanent arrangement with the Council." "What kind of arrangement?" Krell demanded suspiciously. "The diplomatic kind. But we can discuss details later. Right now we have moons to save." The transmission ended. Wong turned to Park with a raised eyebrow. "A more permanent arrangement? That wasn't in our briefing." "Strategic improvisation, Lieutenant," Park replied. "We have demonstrated our value. Now it's time to secure our position. The Defense Force won't like us making unauthorized diplomatic overtures." "The Defense Force sent us to save moons and acquire resources," Park said. "We are doing both. How we achieve those objectives is up to us. And what exactly do you have in mind for this permanent arrangement?" Before Park could answer, the ship shuddered violently. "What was that?" Park demanded. Zhao checked her instruments. "Quantum fluctuation from the barrier." That's not possible." "Clearly it is," Park snapped. "Explain." "The cascade isn't just stopping. It's redirecting. The quantum energy is flowing back through our barrier network. Is that dangerous?" "I don't know. This wasn't in any of our simulations." The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Power surge in the main systems," reported Wong. "The barrier is feeding energy back into our generators." "Shut it down," ordered Park. "I can't," Zhao replied, her fingers flying across the controls. "The process is self-sustaining now. The barrier has locked into some kind of resonance with the moon's core." Park grabbed the communication console. "Defiance to Council Station. We are experiencing technical difficulties and maintain safe distance from Luno." Jax's voice came through, concerned. "Commander? What's happening?" "Unexpected energy feedback. Nothing we can't handle, but caution is advised." Another violent shudder, and several systems on the bridge sparked and went dark. "That doesn't sound like nothing you can't handle," observed Jax dryly. Park ignored the comment. "Zhao, options?" "Working on it, sir. The quantum resonance is creating some kind of amplification effect. The energy output is increasing exponentially." "From where?" demanded Wong. "The cascade particles shouldn't contain this much potential energy." Zhao's face had gone pale. "They don't. It's coming from inside the moon." "Inside?" Park stared at the view screen, where the blue glow around Luno had intensified dramatically. "Explain." "I can't. Unless," Zhao's eyes widened. "Commander, what if the cascade wasn't a natural phenomenon?" "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "What if these moons were already altered? What if the cascade is releasing something that was already there?" The implications hung in the air for a moment before Park turned back to the communication console. "Council Station, we are detecting unusual energy signatures from within Luno. Has the moon ever been surveyed for quantum anomalies?" There was a long pause before Jax replied. "That information is classified, Commander." And Park's expression darkened. "People's lives are at stake, Counselor, including yours, if this situation escalates." Another pause. "Then Luno, like most moons in Council space, contains quantum energy repositories. They are power sources." "Power sources?" Park's voice was dangerously quiet. "You are using moons as batteries?" "It's perfectly safe technology," Jax insisted. "Developed thousands of years ago. The quantum energy is stored in the core, completely isolated. until the cascade started breaking down the molecular structure, Wong realized aloud. Which is why you dismissed our warnings, Park said slowly. You knew what was happening but couldn't admit it without revealing your moon repositories. The technology is highly classified, Jax admitted. Any species in the galaxy would object to our methods. With good reason. Park exploded. You are destabilizing natural satellites. No wonder the cascade started. Our scientists assure us there's no connection, Jax said stiffly. Your scientists are either liars or fools, Park retorted. The quantum resonance from your repositories is exactly what our models predicted would cause molecular destabilization. On the view screen, Luno's glow had become blinding. We need to contain this, Zhao said urgently. The energy release could trigger a chain reaction across all affected moons. How? Asked Wong. We reconfigure the barrier. Instead of reversing the cascade, we channel the energy out, controlled release. Do it, ordered Park. As Zhao worked frantically at her station, the communication console chimed again. This time it was Admiral Plex, his blue face ashen. Commander, my family reports unprecedented seismic activity on Luno. What's happening? Your council has been using moons as quantum batteries, Park replied bluntly. The cascade is releasing that energy. We are working to contain it. Plex's expression shifted from shock to fury. That's impossible. The High Council would never. Ask them yourself, Admiral. Right now we are trying to save your family and everyone else on that moon. The ship rocked with another, more violent tremor. Barrier reconfiguration at 60%, reported Zhao. But the energy release is accelerating faster than we can adapt. Park made a split-second decision. Divert all power to the barriers. Life support, propulsion, everything. Give Zhao what she needs. Sir, that will leave us vulnerable if we need to evacuate, Wong pointed out. If that moon explodes, Lieutenant, there won't be anywhere to evacuate to. As the ship's remaining systems went dark, leaving only emergency lighting, Zhao called out, barrier reconfiguration complete. Energy channeling initiated. On the view screen, the blinding glow around Luno began to change, forming into distinct streams that shot away from the moon like solar flares. The spectacular light show was beautiful and terrifying. It's working, Zhao said, relief evident in her voice. The energy is being vented safely into space. Radiation levels? Asked Park. Minimal. The quantum nature of the energy means it dissipates rapidly once released from containment. Park turned back to the communication console. Council station, the immediate crisis is contained. But we have a bigger problem to discuss. Jax's face appeared, looking shaken. Commander, on behalf of the Council, I must thank you for your intervention. Without Earth's technology. Save it, Park cut him off. You have been lying to the entire galaxy about these repositories. How many moons have you converted into batteries? Jax hesitated before answering. 317 across Council space. 300. Park was momentarily speechless. And you didn't think this was relevant information when we warned you about molecular destabilization. The repositories are thousands of years old, Commander. They have never caused problems before. Until they did, Park pointed out. And rather than admit the truth, you dismissed our warnings and watched as moons began to disintegrate. The Council has made mistakes, Jax admitted. But your technology has saved us. With your barrier systems, we can protect the remaining repositories. Park laughed, a short, harsh sound. You still don't get it, do you? The repositories are the problem. They need to be decommissioned, not protected. That's impossible. Jax protested. Those energy sources power much of Council space. Find alternatives, Park suggested coldly. Because if you don't start decommissioning those repositories immediately, the cascade will eventually overwhelm even our barriers. The council chamber behind Jax erupted into chaos at this pronouncement. You are asking us to dismantle our power infrastructure, Vex said, pushing forward. and that would cause civilization-wide collapse. I'm telling you what needs to happen to prevent galaxy-wide destruction, Park corrected. What you do with that information is up to you. Tora's hologram flickered forward. Perhaps there's a compromise. Earth's barrier technology clearly interacts with the quantum energy in ways we don't understand. Could it be modified to safely extract and contain the energy instead? Park exchanged glances with Zhao, who nodded thoughtfully. It's possible, Park admitted. With significant research and development, which Earth could lead, suggested Tora, with full council backing and resources. And a permanent seat on the council, added Wong quietly. Park considered for a moment. A joint project. Earth provides the barrier technology. The council provides the resources and political support. Together we safely decommission the repositories and develop alternative energy sources, and Earth gets its seat on the council, Jax concluded. Plus exclusive rights to the Keldor system, as already agreed, Park reminded him. The council members conferred briefly before Jax turned back to the screen. We are amenable to these terms, Commander. A formal agreement will be drafted immediately. Excellent, Park nodded. We will stabilize the remaining affected moons while you begin evacuation procedures. No sense taking chances. As the transmission ended, Wong turned to her commander with newfound respect. That was quite the negotiation, sir. It wasn't negotiation, Lieutenant. It was inevitability. Park looked at the view screen, where Luno still glowed faintly as the last of the excess energy dissipated. The Council needs us now. They know it. We know it. Everything else is just details. And Earth gets what it's wanted for decades, recognition as a major galactic power. Recognition we have earned, Park corrected, through science, foresight, and determination. Not conquest or intimidation. Though the Council might argue that point, Zhao noted with a small smile. The Council can argue whatever they like, Park replied. But when their moons were turning to dust, it was Earth that saved them. That fact will echo through the galaxy long after the arguments fade. 3 weeks later, Park stood in the newly constructed Earth Embassy on the Council Station, looking out at the stars. The diplomatic team had arrived yesterday, relieving him and his crew of political duties and allowing them to focus on the technical aspects of the repository decommissioning project. A soft chime announced a visitor. Park turned to see Tora's hologram materializing. Counselor Tora, to what do I owe the pleasure? I wanted to personally thank you, Commander. The barrier deployment on my homeworld's moons was completed this morning. Just doing our job, Park replied modestly. No, Tora shook her head. You did far more than that. You changed the balance of power in the galaxy. You forced the Council to confront its mistakes. And you did it without firing a single shot. Sometimes the most effective weapon is the truth, Counselor. Tora's holographic form moved closer. There's talk among the younger council members. Talk of reform. Of transparency. Your actions have inspired many of us to question old ways. Change is inevitable, Park said. The Council can either lead it or be swept aside by it. Yes, Tora agreed. A lesson Earth seems to have learned long ago. Park smiled. We have had practice with existential threats. They tend to clarify priorities. Well, the galaxy owes you a debt, Commander. One that won't be forgotten. As Tora's hologram faded, Park turned back to the viewport. In the distance, he could see Earth ships moving between moons, deploying barriers, extracting dangerous quantum energy, preventing catastrophe. It wasn't how humanity had planned to announce their arrival on the galactic stage, but it had proven effective. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had saved the dismissive. The warnings that had been ignored had been vindicated. The Council that had refused Earth a seat had been forced to provide one. Not bad, Park murmured to himself, for a bunch of primitives. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, the quantum cascade that had threatened to reduce moons to dust continued its inexorable progress through the galaxy. But now, wherever it went, Earth was there to meet it. not just with technology, but with the message that came with it, ignore us at your peril. The Council had learned that lesson. The rest of the galaxy would soon follow.